Today's our final day in the book of 2 Kings, and we're going to talk about, and you have the chance to read about, probably the second favorite king of Judah that we read about in the Bible, and that's King Josiah. And we get his story in chapters 22 and 23. Amazingly, Josiah was only 8 years old when he began to reign. Imagine that, a third grader is the king of Judah. So you know he's being guided, shaped, likely manipulated by adults. But we learn quickly that in the 18th year of his reign, so when he is 26, so thankfully he survives to adulthood, there is some renovation work going on in the temple, and the book of the law is discovered as they're emptying out a treasury. And Shaphan, the secretary, informed the king that the priest Hilkiah has given me a book. And Shaphan reads the book aloud to the king. This is in chapter 22. Verse 11, it says, when the king heard the words of the book of the law, he tore his clothes. And he tears his clothes because he says that the wrath of the Lord is kindled against us because our ancestors did not obey the words of this book to do according to all that is written concerning. So Josiah calls all the priests and the religious leaders together, and he calls everyone together. And the king, now we're at the start of chapter 23, directs all the elders of Judah and Jerusalem to gather. And he goes to the house of the Lord, and all the people of Judah and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem, the priests, the prophets, and all the people, small and great. And he read in their hearing the words of the book of the covenant that had been found in the house of the Lord. And our verse for the day is verse 3. The king stood by the pillar and made a covenant before the Lord to follow the Lord, keeping his commandments, his decrees, and his statutes with all his heart and all his soul, to perform the words of the covenant that were written in this book. All the people joined in the covenant. Now, covenant is a word that in a sense means coming together, and this represents the coming together of the Lord God with the people of Judah, the people of Israel, if you will. And the king, he goes after it, and he starts his very serious reforms, which have great implications. They were so far gone in the temple that they had vessels made for Baal, for Asherah, for worshiping the host of heaven, and he takes all those things out of the temple and he has them burned, and he takes a whole lot of steps to try to purge the land of any form of idolatry or false worship. And you can read about all of that in chapter 23. And in verse 25, it sums up Josiah by saying, before him there was no king like him, who turned to the Lord with all his heart and with all his soul and with all his might, according to the law of Moses, nor did any like him arise after him. So Josiah is a very significant king, and his reforms are remembered for the rest of time, because this is part of what moves the people of Israel temporarily back to the covenant with God, and also reminding them that they are a people of the book, something that has stayed with us even until now.